let's get started about the Agile Breakfast team. So it's Shiva, Manuel, and me. And yeah, we decided like over a year ago that we would want to spread the Agile way of working. And then we came up with the idea to say, hey, why not like start like the Agile Breakfast and just like, share some of our knowledge. And yeah, over the months and now more than a year, this went pretty well. And we said, okay, let's also go public and invite people from the outside, as we are doing it online anyway due to the whole pandemic. So here we are. And what we want to make clear is this is like not a training. So it's not something where we will train you how to do things or you like use a special method that you could like learn. But we're sharing ideas and some useful knowledge. And of course, we want you to get hungry for more and perhaps also, use things that we share. And of course, the things that we share are like easily to be used, like with your company, your colleagues, and so on. And yeah, if you need help, so we tried something that didn't work, and we also work as freelancers aside. And yeah, if you want, like, get in contact with us, our homepage is agilebyexperience.com, and we would be happy to help you and work together. Then today's session. So what's in the store? We decided to go for purpose. So what is purpose? Why is it important? Then we prepared our framework that we already used a few times and worked pretty well. So that's then the main section. And of course, like, how do we help teams to find their purpose? So we had some experience, and of course we will share the examples that we think are useful for you. So why this topic? We think it's always important to have a reason to do something, right? So no matter what you do, if you start a new project, if you like, get inspired by something, if you have like some motivation, we say, hey, I want to do this, and you don't know where to start, or like, you think about it, and the topic that you should think about most is like, what is the reason? Like, what is your purpose? Like, what is the why behind like the things that you're doing or you want to do? Because normally, if you have a good reason to do things, it's easily to get people to connect and help you with, or to stay motivated, or to inspire others. It also helps you to drive for decisions. So the reason behind something that you do or anybody else is doing is really, really helpful. And that's why we decided to go for this topic. Then I hand over to Manuel.
Yes, because we were thinking, okay, how important is purpose? How important is having this this sense of purpose, right? And how was your experience? We always say that we wanted to hear from you. We always say we want this to be a little bit a discussion, a two-way thing, and not just us presenting. So if you go to menti.com, we have a question for you, and we want to see how was your experience over the past few years, right? So if you come here to our Menti, you will see some questions, and we already see some answers.
You maybe post the ID into the chat.
Yes, we can do. Thanks. We can do that.
Just not been fast enough.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me see if I hide this. Sam, can you take care of that?
Yep, it's done. It's in there.
Okay. Yeah. So we were saying, okay, this is also kind of our personal experience when we were preparing this. We were discussing, and this was kind of a personal experience. We've been sometimes in groups, or we've seen groups that they don't have a goal, right? It's kind of most of the time for us was kind of 50-50, right? Luckily, not never. Also, unluckily, not always. Sometimes we saw it. Sometimes it wasn't so common, right? But we also saw the huge benefit of being in a group with a clear and understood purpose, right? And exactly as you see here it was our experience, right? What we saw over time and our working also with different teams, right? So there are no surprises here. So back to the presentation, if you allow me here. We were thinking, okay, what is purpose, right? And of course, the first thing that comes to your mind is reason, or at least the first that comes to mind. Is what motivates you, what inspires you to do this extra bit that you need, but also defines the energy, right? Defines your drive. And at some point, or ideally, let's say, it also is connected to your values, is connected to the group or the team values, gives you a feeling of doing the right thing, maybe. But also, and that's important for me, and I saw the benefit in teams or in my teams, is also gives you a direction, right? It gives you, okay, this is the way we need to go, right? And it helps you stay in the path. It helps you to stay and hopefully achieve this goal, right? Achieve this or keep into this direction, right? So these are all the things that are around when we think purpose. We think of reasons, we think of energy, we think of values, direction. All these are the keywords that we thought, okay, these are important around this topic, right? And then we've been working on a framework. We've been using a framework to help teams to understand, to plan, to let's say, to craft the purpose. And now it's Shiva showing it.
Thank you. Thanks, Manuel, for that. I hope you can hear me. Yeah, so what happened was I've been working with Purpose for quite some time. What we've seen in a lot of teams at FlixBus also is that when the purpose is clear, a lot of things move forward, a lot of problems are solved. So we didn't come up with this framework to start with, but it was a retrospective thought. We did it like for a lot of teams, and I said, okay, is there a pattern? And then I found out that this is probably some pattern that really works. And so that's how I came up with this framework. I did a 2-hour workshop last year in the Agile Testing Days conference, and this was very well received. So I thought, okay, why not share it in the breakfast here? And that's why we are here. So though it looks complex, it is not so complicated actually. It's got 5 parts. We start with setting the stage. Basically, every time you're saying that you're really looking at why to actually even go into the fact of, should I do a purpose workshop or should I even help teams find purpose? Question is, okay, why do you want to do that? There must be some reason why you want to do this. And I've seen different teams have different reasons. There have been teams where they say that we don't have focus. There are teams which say that we don't know if the work that we are doing is valuable. So there are teams which say we don't know if we are being successful. So it's important for us to understand why you want to first run this. Knowing that is not enough, you also need to obviously create the safety, because purpose can also be a very difficult topic to understand, right? You need to have contracts in place, you need to involve the right kind of people. So all that is what we call as setting the stage. And then once you have that in place, which is probably, I think, even before we get started. Manuel, can you just go back to the previous slide? Yeah. Then the second part would be to really understand where is it that I want to go. That is what is my destination looking like? And then stage 3 would be to really see where am I now? So I've set a stage, I know where I want to go, I know where I am. Now it's all about finding out how do I reach there, right? And when we start thinking about, moving forward, we also need to know, am I really moving forward? How do I know that I'm succeeding? So that's another part here. So there are 5 stages here. You set the environment, you try to find out where I want to go, then you find out where I am, then you try to build the next steps to move there. And while doing that, we're also looking at ways to know for ourselves whether I'm succeeding, whether am I really moving forward. And to start the whole thing, I wanted to start with a quick example. So this is one of my teams that we talk about. We're a team of data scientists and engineers. They were building a product. And with a lot of data science products is also, you're discovering a lot of things, and they were working with marketing stakeholders, and they were trying to build something that was useful. It was 2 years almost that they've been building something, but we really didn't have anything that was working and tangible. So the team on one side was frustrated. They were saying, see, we're building stuff, but looks like my stakeholders don't value it. They don't need it. Then we spoke to the stakeholders, and they were like, we have no idea what they're doing. It's been 2 years and we have nothing. And so we were in a situation where, nobody was moving forward. And then we said, okay, let's stop, let's pause, and let's find out what is it that you really want. So that was one of the first purpose workshops that I conducted at Flixbus. We spent quite a lot of time really discussing the purpose. At the end of the workshop, which was spread over a week's time, because we just stopped the project and said it's not going anywhere, let's do this. We really came to exactly what do we want. We had an agreement between the stakeholders as well as the team on exactly what we should be building. What was the result? Within 3 months, we had a MVP, which was already released. What didn't happen in 2 years happened in 3 months. And within 6 months, we were actually saving a lot of money. Does this happen? It happens. So we did this again and again and again. I've done this with services teams, a team which is not just a product team, but also a services team. I've done this with our coaches chapter. And it's all been successful to some extent. Obviously, the tricky thing about purpose is that you have to keep revisiting it because it keeps changing. Having said that, what I want to do now is probably take you through each of these steps and tell you what this means at a high level. And probably if you want more details, we'd always want to talk more and see if we can help you in any which way.
Yeah, perhaps one thing to add here. So it's really important that you start with, like, after setting the stage, to look where you want to go and whom you want to be. So to really align with your team and your stakeholders and people to really set like the goal, like what's the point you want to be, and then start like from where you are right now. Because if you do it the other way around, like then you're not like aligned with all your colleagues to know, okay, what's the goal, right? And then you might have different goals, and then it will all get like pretty crazy, right? So please make sure that after you have like a safe space and everybody is fine to like speak and know it's okay to like even raise weird ideas, that you have a clear goal all together and say, hey, we're aligned. And then you can go back at the beginning and say, okay, that's where we are right now. And like, where do we get there? Like, how do we move forward, and what are the next steps? So even though the numbers look a bit confusing on the slide, it's really important that you follow like those steps to go through the framework.
Totally, yeah, and that's why we put safety right in first. So if you, Manuel, can you go to the next slide? And what do I mean by setting the stage? The first one is what we spoke about, to focus on the why. Why do I want to help the team, and why do I want to do a purpose workshop? This is for the team to come up with. And like I said, different teams have different needs, right? We spoke about this team, which said that we don't know what to focus on. So there have been teams where they said that I think the work that we're doing is not valuable. There have been teams where they said, okay, we've been doing this all this while, but looks like the direction has changed. Now, how do we refocus ourselves? So it's always important to understand why should I do this? Because then, like you see, we always tie it back to say, you said you want to do this. Is it really helping you? What kind of team? It can make a lot of difference. Is your team building products? Is it like a services team? Is it a new team? Is it an existing team? Um, is it like a chapter? Is it a big segregation of people? What is it? Because based on that, we want to fine tune our purpose workshop in different ways, right? So when I was doing this as a workshop, we obviously did each of these stages and then we helped you think through this for your teams and build it. I don't think we have that amount of time here, so I'll take you through this and probably you could retrospectively think through this when you want to build it on your own. One of the things I think Sam said, I'm saying this, and I think we'll have to keep repeating this, that probably the key to success is to really create a safe space. And that can come in different ways. That can come by creating ground rules. That can come by, there are lots of wonderful activities to create safety. And the point is that we have to start creating a feeling that it's safe to really discuss these topics, right? And one of the points, I think Sam also touched upon this, is about involving the right people. The major difference between creating a purpose for ourselves, and that is what is my purpose versus what is my team's purpose, is that, you know, as a team, you could come up with your own purpose, but that must be aligned with that of what your organization wants as well. So you cannot just do this in isolation. We really need to collaborate with a lot of people and stakeholders. So thinking, if I'm going to create this workshop, who should I involve? It's not enough to just have the team. We spoke about this team of data scientists. What we did was we involved stakeholders there. There was everybody involved here, from people managers to the VP of marketing, because we said, you're all stakeholders here. You need to know what we are doing, right? And just to give you an example of one of the things that we did there, can you just click on the slide menu? We did this, one of the many things that we did was also to find out what are our roles and responsibilities. So like you say, see, there are lots of stakeholders here. And for each stakeholder, we said who will be doing what and why they should be involved in this workshop. And there's a column for everybody, including the VP of marketing, I see. And it was really nice to get everybody on board. So these are one of the many things that you need to do to create safety.
Do you think, Shiva, that also was useful to clarify expectation between stakeholders, right?
Exactly. Wonderful point. Yeah. Thanks for that. I really missed that. And one of the major things that it does also, like what was happening here was, you know, they were running experiments and they said, who will decide whether we need to roll this out into the market? Will it come from the team? Will it come from the stakeholders? Will it come from VP marketing? And they said, yeah, so let's understand how this works. Who is going to be doing what? What is the expectation from us as a team? And yeah, probably a lot of times this is also very, very necessary. Wonderful. So let's move on. So once I set the stage, the next thing is for us to really look at where do I want to go? That's what I said, right? But what really helps with teams, especially teams that are established, is to look at something easier. You know, what am I doing now? That's easier for teams because they're already doing some work. So it helps us to get the context started by just asking them, okay, what are you doing? And because that's easier than to say, what is it that you want to build? Because a lot of times it's abstract and we don't really have you know, enough information and clarity on that. So we start with something easier. Ideally, it'll be nice to know where I want to go, but I start with something simpler because it's easier for teams. One of the things that we do a lot here is to just see who are my stakeholders, right? And who are my customers. And a lot of times teams say, you know, the product that we build is not actually customer facing. So then it really helps to just say, tell me who's using your product. And that might be your end users. And there are people who are actually paying for it, right? They are also sponsors. They are the main stakeholders. And then there are people whom you collaborate with, right? So it's really nice to look at who are my end users, who are my stakeholders, who are my partners. And once you know, okay, these are the people I work with, then the question is, what is it that we are doing for them, right? What are the products or services that we are offering them? Like you say, I have a lot of questions here. Which question do I use is based on which teams, what kind of teams that you work with. Do you work with product teams? Do you work with services teams? Do you work with new teams? Then the question is, what problem are we trying to solve? Or what solutions already exist as of today? That could be something that we look for new teams, right? So this is not, this is just a blueprint, right? It's not an exact script for how to do it with teams. It will vary for different teams. And I'm trying to just give you ideas of what can really go into this part. So one, to identify whom am I, what kind of product or service that I'm building, most importantly for whom, and secondly to also ask these questions. It could be things like what's working well, what do we have to offer, what will happen if I don't do what I'm doing today. That might also be a very thought-provoking question, right? So that's the second stage, and where we are really mapping my current work.
Also, if you don't mind me interrupting, I saw in this state also, or in this step when doing this, maybe also was you share the view, or was your experience that also what is the current state is not shared between stakeholders, right? So maybe the team thinks we are doing great, while some marketing manager thinks we are doing horrible, or even inside the team, right? Developers think we are doing great, but QA expert thinks, oh, things are not really great in this team, and these kind of things, right? So this step also helps to clarify and build this shared understanding of where we are.
Totally, and also brings up blind spots. I spoke about this team of data scientists and engineers. So it was very interesting. So we said, okay, tell me all the things that you've done. So they listed all the stuff they have built. They had some 8 products they have built. And they said, we built these 8 products. All of them were used once by our stakeholders and never used after that. And we said, okay, what is that telling you? What is the problem there? Probably you're building stuff that's not useful. They said, no. And then we had a conversation around that with our stakeholders. And it really looked like whatever they were building is not usable by the end users. They didn't have a UI, they didn't have anything that was useful. And they said, okay, the first thing I need, we didn't think that was important, because we just wanted to see the data, and I'm showing you the data.
Yeah.
But you see, these are a lot of things that, and then the MVP that we built, they actually prioritized building some kind of a UI which will be useful for the end users. And in the end, that was more successful. Yeah, so this is one way of doing it. Who are our stakeholders, who are our partners, who are our end users, and I've been doing that with a lot of teams. Now comes the tricky part, right? Yeah, that was easy. What is difficult is to really know the visioning part of it, right? That's not easy at all. So there are 3 parts to it, right? One is that we already have a vision. Many teams, like we saw this 50-50 in our initial poll as well, and that's very much like how the world works. That you see that we do have a vision, but we just don't know if it's relevant, right? So a lot of times when your teams have a vision, it's probably the right time for you to say, let's revisit our vision. Let's see if my vision is still relevant. A vision is what? It tells you where you want to be or what you want to go. We spoke about purpose. Purpose and vision are almost, they go hand in hand. And so if you have a vision, then, or a purpose or something that you've already written, why is my team existing? Then this is the right time for you to go and revisit it and to really say, this is what I've been doing till now. this is my vision. Is my vision still relevant? And that's a very, very important thing for you to really think through, right? Now, what happens if I don't have a vision? Then it's important to create one. I could do a whole workshop or probably another Agile Breakfast just on how to create vision. I don't think we will do justice by just using 5 minutes to talk about it, but there are lots of ways to create one. I did this easy one. I'm just going to explain how I did it for one of the teams that we said. They were a team of content managers. And then we said, what is it that you should be doing? And they said, what is an ideal content management team for you? And they came up with some wonderful ideas. And they said, okay, we shouldn't be translating. We should actually be checking whether the content is relevant. We should be ensuring. And they came with a lot of things saying, this is what we should be doing as a team. So there could be things like, what is the most important thing for us to do and why? You're finding it difficult and there's a lot of things to do. You can ask things like, out of all the things that you're doing, what is it that you do not want to do? And you'll be surprised to see there are a lot of things people say, I'm doing this, I don't want to do. This is not part of what I think is my team's vision. What are my needs? So there could be different ways of doing it. There are a lot of frameworks also for vision. I know Sam used GOSPA with us in the coaches chapter once. There's the VMOSA framework. These are all different frameworks that you can use for building a vision. Again, like I said, we don't have that much time to go into all the details, but I would encourage you to kind of Google them up and then see, or reach out to us. We can help you there as well. Okay, so what have we done till now? A lot of work actually, right? So we spent a lot of time creating the environment, getting the right kind of people in there, understanding why I should do it. Then I said, okay, tell me what stage are we in? What is the place we are in? So where are we now? Then we said, okay, where do we want to go? And one of the things that Manuel also spoke about is that where do we want to go is a place where there needs to be a lot of alignment between stakeholders and the team itself, because there are very different thoughts in a lot of ways. So it helps to really get them together here. And we found this very, very, very valuable to have these conversations. Okay, after we do that, Manuel, can you click on the next? Yeah, so yeah, after we do that, then the question is, are we moving forward? And a lot of people just stop at, saying, let me, once I know my vision and I know where I am, I know what I need to do, right? I just go start doing stuff. But a very, very important step here is to stop and really look at, how do I know if I'm succeeding? And it's a very difficult question, but it's a very important question to answer. So I ask people or teams, what does success mean to you? Or how do you know you're successful? Okay, and that really helps us really understand also, am I understanding my vision right? And then also, how do I know if I'm moving forward? Right? Then if the teams are up for it, then we push it a bit further and say, how can we measure it? What are your success metrics? How will what you're doing benefit the business? How will it benefit your stakeholders? And these questions really give a lot of clarity, because vision at a lot of times is very blurry. And then when you really start asking these kind of questions on defining success and even measuring it, what really happens is it makes it much more concrete, right? And that's what actually happened with the team I was talking about, because they were initially, I'm not very sure if you can talk about the whole product, but they were thinking of doing 3 things at the same time. And then when we really started talking about this, they realized that, yeah, that's a good end state. But if I have to start, I want just this one thing to be really working. And that's going to make all the difference. And that clearly made it so easy for people to then say, okay, if that's what you need, I'm not going to take another year, 2 months, and I can get you there. And
it's not always just about hard facts, right? So sometimes it's like about soft facts or topics that you can't measure, right? So imagine like going to the gym, you know, like if you go to the gym for 1 week, like every day, you won't see like any like progression after 7 days, right? You need to like keep doing it for a longer time of period, but over time you will see success, and it's then about for you to check like if it's have like hard facts, but also other facts that you can like not observe that easily, like people like, you know, chatting here and there and talking about topics which they wouldn't have talked about before. So sometimes you just need to like observe a little bit more or keep doing it a little bit longer to see success coming over time.
totally. And that's what happened. And then if this is clear, this makes it concrete for you. Basically, what is it that we are looking at? But the key for all of this, as we keep saying this again and again and again, and if you've been into our previous breakfast as well, is to start small, is to experiment, is to do something simple. You could again come up with a 1 year plan, not going to be useful. So step 5, if you're looking at step 5, Manuel, the next slide, please. Thank you. Small steps. When we're talking about how, the question is what is the smallest thing that you could do, and the question is what will change and who will do what. It's very, very important for us to really come up with that, right? And so once you know what mess we are in, where we want to go, and what that going forward means to us, then the question is what is the smallest thing that I can do to move forward? Okay. And then also what will change, right? It's really important to have these conversations and to talk again about who will be doing that. We don't want to do all this and then figure out that the team saying, oh, I thought they will do it, and then the stakeholders will say, oh, I thought the team will do it. That's not what we want. And so this is the last thing that we do. And obviously this is the place we also reinforce a lot of things. For example, for this team, we said that stakeholders have to be in the reviews every 2 weeks, because we're going to be showing results. We want you to see them. We want you to say, tell us if we are moving forward. And that's our checkpoints. And then they started doing that. And then we started seeing results as well. So where was the problem?
Yeah, I also think here the small thing.
Sorry? Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, where was the problem? Was it with the team? Was it with the stakeholders? Do I fix them? No, the problem was that they were not aligned. And I think the biggest thing about doing a purpose workshop, it brings in so much alignment. We have everybody seeing the same things. I know Tom's here. He's been a big proponent of this, also having alignment. I think all coaches in Flixbus really see that quite a lot. And it's important for us because somehow we think that it's a waste of time. But no, when you really do that, it saves us a lot of time in the future. That's what we see.
You know what, Shiva? I also think that it's valuable even if there's no alignment, just to clarify what are the standing points, just to understand, okay, we are not aligned on that, and to that way avoid frustrations, right? Could be that I guess in an ideal situation, everyone agrees, everyone sees the same, and everything is happy, right? But also I think it's valuable to have people talking and then say, well, okay, unfortunately we can't do this, unfortunately we don't agree on this, so it's clear for everyone, right? Also alignment in this disagreement, or in this okay, there are some things that we can't do, right? And then we are all clear and we avoid frustrations in the future, we avoid misunderstandings and all these kind of things, right? So even that is good to have, right? Or at least that's my experience.
Totally. When we know that we are not aligned, then we are aligned, right? So Totally worth it. And I think thanks for that, because we also find out that at the end, not everything can be happy. Sometimes we find out that we're doing different things totally. And then the next steps is what can we do? Something has to change. And yeah, that's
Yeah.
very true.
I wanted to add one more thing about the small picture with the guy going on top of a mountain, right? So it's really about like small steps, because like, you know, if you start for a hike and you go like step by step for the first 10 minutes, you won't make much progress, right? It would not feel like, hey, you're reaching the top already, right? So it really takes time, but if you start with small steps over time, like after like the day, you will have like 10,000, 20,000 steps, right? And that is what will bring you to progress. But you need to start with like a small step, right?
Totally. So to make this more concrete, I've given you two examples, one of a product team and the other of a services team. I also wanted to give you a quick example of our coaches chapter. And when we did this, also, like I keep saying, we have to keep doing this again and again. We are fans of that. So what did we do? There was a change in focus here, because the organization moved from just being, as coaches, we were working with different teams. Then they said, okay, coaches must be working with only specific domains. And then they said, okay, this changes the way we look at things. So I think we should probably relook at how we work. And they said, okay. And we did this in one of our conferences. And we said, okay, let's get feedback from all the different stakeholders, partners that we work with, to really see what do they expect from us. So we did this. We contacted the product owners, and obviously there were teams, and we know their expectations. Then we contacted the VPs, then the CTO, the PMs, asked each of them, tell us what are you expecting from us. So we're setting the stage to really understand, because these are our most important stakeholders. Then we revisited our vision. Our vision, the major part of our vision is the autonomy part, right? And so we have a clear vision of what that means. We have a vision statement. So we revisited it. We said, what does that mean? Then we drew the role of an agile coach, and we said, okay, what are the different things that the agile coach is doing? So this was our vision of what an agile coach must be doing, what we should be doing as a team. Next slide. Yeah. Then we spent a lot of time saying that is what the agile coach must be doing. This is what we are doing. So you see a lot of post-its. We use a lot of post-its, yes. And those times it was also physical. So we could go there and physically do this, and we really like it. So we did a lot of post-its over there, and then we started putting it or clustering it together to say, this is the kind of work that we're doing today. And then we said, that is what we should be doing. This is what we're doing. There is a change in focus. Does it change our vision? So we found out that it doesn't change our vision, but it changes the way in which we work. So finally, we looked at this. And like I said, it was a very nice framework that we used. We said, the GOSPA, what's our goal, and then strategy, plan, actions, and stuff like that. And we started looking at what is going to be the next steps and how will we know that we are succeeding. Did it work? To a great extent, it aligned us on aligned expectations on what the coaches must do. And yeah, it was a new way of working for us. Why did I put this example here? Just to say that it's not just with teams, it's not just with products, it can work with chapters, it can work with people who work with each other in some way or the other. Yeah, these are experiences that I've had with work. And so basically I did this, then we said, okay, probably there is some pattern, and this was the pattern that we found with the framework.
I think that, Shiva, sorry to interrupt, there was a question for Patrick around this.
Yeah.
I didn't want to interrupt you, Shiva. I just wanted to ask, that you were showing like many pictures now of photographs of your whiteboards, which I really find cool and appreciate. What do you think about the current situation? Like, is it convenient enough for you guys to just use Miro or MS Whiteboard or something like that to virtualize that? or do you have any kind of specific tooling around that you're using?
Great question. I mean, we are great fans of using, something physical, but then
Me too.
you have to move along with the times. And now the idea is to really see how can we do this virtually. Miro has been good for sure. We've tried different tools. I've also tried Mural. That's also just as good as this. We have a lot of other tools. Is it as good as doing it in a physical meeting? It's a difficult question to answer, but we're trying to do the best that we can. Other tools, Sam, I know some tool that you've been using, which you said was really nice.
Yeah, like online whiteboards and stuff. So we tried and figured out that some tools have more features, some have less. But I think the most important part is if you no matter what you use, if it's like a PowerPoint tool, right, or you use like a Word document or whatsoever, I think the most important thing is to visualize, right? To really write things down, put them together, let people read them and think about what is written there and what is meant by it, right? Because sometimes you all know communication is the most difficult part of everyday's business, right? So making something explicit by writing it down, or sometimes if you're good at drawing, also drawing it, or like putting items or whatever helps you to communicate and express yourself is helpful. So using visualization is definitely good no matter what tool you use. And at the end, it's about not the tool, but the content and the communication. Because there's one funny saying I like a lot is a fool with a tool is still a fool, right? So no matter how good your tool is, if you're not able to express and use it in the right direction, then the tool itself won't make it any better.
Oh, well said. I mean, the other way that I was looking at is that, there was this one page where I was in denial, where I said, oh, nothing is going to happen. But then we are also reminded that when we're talking about being agile, it also applies to us. And then this world is changing and we should also change accordingly. Otherwise, we're just going to get left behind. And I see that very relevant in our work, that we adapt, we are flexible, and we try to do the best that we can with what we have.
Also, I guess it's the biggest challenge in my experience is not the tool, but the energy, right? When you are in an online meeting, people, I guess, are tempted to switch tabs and go to do something else, right? And answer an email or answer a chat. So when you are face to face, it's easier to keep the energy up. It's easier to call everybody around the board. But then when you are at home, you don't see people and they maybe could lose a little bit of energy. So keeping them engaged, keeping them on the board, that's the bigger challenge, besides which tool, right? Some tools are a little bit better, have more functionality, is fine, but keeping this energy is the most challenging thing, I guess. And that's what I spend a little bit more of my energy to keep everybody around this board, right?
Yeah. And we also encourage our participants to share the video, right? Because I mean, seeing them helps you to see if what are they doing with their eyes? Are they looking somewhere else? If you see them, you can more easily see if they're following or if they're doing something else or whatsoever. So in our normal meetings where we interact with people, we really try just seeing somebody enabling his video. Cool. So yeah, it's really about seeing each other and taking note and see, hey, is somebody following or is he or she doing something else and not with us anymore?
Totally.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. So that kind of wraps up the framework for me. And that's about it, I guess. Next slide, Manuel. Yes, so if you want more to know more about this, or you want some help around this, please reach out. We'd be happy to help. What we want to do is also save some time for questions. So we wanted to ensure that we have at least 10 minutes for the questions. So here we go. Any questions that you might have? we'd want to hear. And then probably, if you have time, also what we ask you is to go back to menti.com to leave some feedback on how you see this. Was it helpful? And if you want any changes. So yeah, feedback works both ways, right? The good and the bad. So we'd be really happy to hear that.
Great session. Thanks, guys.
So I would have a question. So the whole process, if you do it with one team, so roughly how much time do you spend on that? So this is like multiple days where you have different workshops, or is it just one big workshop for one day? Or
yeah, I've done both formats. There was one team where I said, yeah, we said we're going to block out 2 hours every day, and we did that for a week. There are teams where they say, this is a lot, so I want to think through it. So we block off like 3 or 4 hours, and then after a couple of weeks, another 3 hours, and that's like a process. Also depends on, really how open the teams are to this and how much time we have. Yeah. And yeah, I don't think you can cram everything into a day. Not a great idea. You'd leave them very, very tired.
yeah, especially when the session is remote.
Yeah, and what also sometimes is helpful for people to do something on the first day and then take time to discuss it with friends or family and sleep over it. And sometimes you get a thought while you're showering in the morning and whenever, right? And people have different ways of living and working with their thoughts. So a day in between or a night in between would help them to go through the whole content and think about it and then come up with new ideas or change of mind. And yeah, it just helps to not push it all into one session on one day.
Any other questions that you have? Or any comments? Somebody wants to share their experience, we'll be happy to hear.
Yeah, we have some in the chat, some comments. So yeah, people seem to really like it. So yeah, if you have other comments, also use the chat if you want. And thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Question, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I would like to know if you define first the focus, so the goal, the objective, strategy, plan, or you find first where are you now and then define where we want to go. That's my question.
Okay. If you ask me what is the right thing to do, probably a good thing is to always start with where you want to go, and then you look at where you are. But for teams or for people, they find it very difficult to really look forward into the future. So I start with where you are now, because that makes it easier and it opens them up to start thinking further. It works. I've tried both. It really depends on your team and also on the people you're involved with. I've done this also for a lot of people to help them define their own purpose. And when I do that with people, I always ask them to look at where they want to go, who they want to be, and then look at what they are now, because we don't want to use your current to define your future. So an ideal thing would be to look at your future first. But when you're coming to a team's context, it makes a lot of sense to probably just see where you are.
Yeah, perhaps another thing to do, which is also sometimes helpful before you do the whole big why workshop, is to do a future perspective. Normally in Scrum you have retrospectives where you look back on the last 2 weeks what happened, but you can also use this session to say, hey, dear team, what would our next sprint look like, right? So what is the future is going to be, to just give them the mindset of thinking about how the future could look like. Because for most people, it's really difficult to imagine and say, oh yeah, it's going to happen like this, or this will go like that, or this will go wrong, or I don't know, right? So if they start thinking about the future and anticipating or assuming things, it's a good challenge to start with that. And then after a few months, when you say, hey, okay, the team seems to be in the right mindset to do that, then you can start why workshop, and then also start with the goals first, because they already thought about what they want to achieve, what they think is really important, what is valuable, and yeah, so small steps up front could also help to like do this then with the goals first. Any other questions or comments?
I just want to say that I like the session. Thanks for the presentation, guys.
You're welcome.
Welcome.
Glad to hear. And yeah, as mentioned at the beginning already, if there are other topics that you want us to take care of and share our experience with it, please also leave some comments in the chat. So we're happy to dig into other topics and share what we experienced already, or perhaps also you have topics that you say, hey, you want to share. Perhaps we can also like then have a breakfast together and you can share your experience. So we're open to like any feedback and input. So let us know. And if you need help, yeah, contact us. Also, here's our email, and we're happy to help and work together.
Mm-hmm. And we already have one topic on psychological safety in remote teams. Wonderful topic. I think also very, very relevant. Thanks for that. So we think about that and come up with something around that probably sometime in the future.
Good idea.
All right, then. If there's nothing else, then I guess we could call it an end here. Thank you so much for your time. I hope this was helpful for you, and we hope to see you again in another breakfast soon.
Yeah, hopefully next month.
See you next month.
Thank you, guys.
You're
See you
welcome.
later.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye.
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 Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.